The day my divorce was finalized, I bought a high-speed train ticket back to my hometown. All I had after all these years was a phone, my ID card, and a bank card with a small balance. The housekeeper called, saying there were still some of my things left to pick up. Just throw them away. I don't need them, I replied. Then he mentioned that the little master was crying for his mom. He'll have a new mom soon, the one he's always been thinking about. My son really takes after his father even. In the women they love. I used to wonder with sadness why it couldn't be me. But now I think if he doesn't love me, then so be it. Before the train started moving, I spoke my final words into the phone. Tell him not to worry. I'll never bother him again in this lifetime. After hanging up, I turned off my phone and changed my SIM card. From now on, this city had nothing to do with me. Sitting beside me was a little girl about my son's age. She had big round eyes and was watching me cautiously. I used to love children, but now I loved nothing. She was quiet and well-behaved the whole ride, though her guardian was noisy, talking on the phone and swearing nonstop. I put on my headphones and closed my eyes for a nap. I don't know how much time passed before someone gently tugged my sleeve. I opened my eyes. Auntie, my mom is missing. Can you help me find her? The little girl asked, her lips pressed tightly together. The seat by the aisle was empty. Unsure of what happened, I immediately called the conductor and train police. They found out that her mother had gotten off midway, looking back nervously as she walked, afraid the girl might follow.
Yeah.
In other words, she had abandoned her. The carriage buzzed with voices.
House.
Passengers spoke without holding back, calling. The mother heartless and saying how pitiful the girl was, all right in front of her. But she just sat quietly, still as a statue, without crying or fussing. After thinking for a moment, I showed the train police my ID and gave them my address and contact information. So when I got off that train, I didn't just have my phone, my ID card, and a bank card with a small balance. I also had a child with me. I settled back into my hometown. I cleaned up the empty little courtyard, planted vegetables and fruit trees, and framed my grandmother's portrait, hanging it in the center of the living room. I named the little girl Felisa and gave her my surname, Song. I completed the paperwork. To register her, our household registration was no longer just a solitary page. Feli never smiles. She always looks serious, watching me with a solemn expression. She understands everything, far beyond her years. Even though she's only 4, she'll stand on a stool to cook porridge for me when I'm sick. Can't help but think of my own child, the Jang family's little master. Benjamin, the boy who gets an entire ski resort as a gift when he wants to ski, and an entire candy factory when he wants sweets. The difference between them is like night and day. One day, Feli asked why I adopted her. She said she was just a burden. I patted her head and said because I was lonely. So, can you keep me company? She stayed quiet for a long time, then nodded firmly. Okay, I'll stay with you forever. The days went by. Feli started kindergarten. Feli started elementary school. Feli became class monitor. Feli got into a fight. I was shocked when I got the call from her teacher. Feli had always been obedient, far more mature than her age. Barely even looked at her classmates, let alone fought with them. In her own words, they were too childish. I rushed to the school. The teacher was waiting at the gate, looking helpless. The child who fought with Feli is a new transfer student.
Oh.
Why did they fight? That was all I wanted to know. The teacher gave me a slightly strange look. Benjamin said Feli was trying to steal his mom. I froze. What did you say? The photo in Feli's pencil case of you and her, the teacher explained. Benjamin saw it and said, he said Feli was shameless for trying to steal his mom. I didn't reply, just followed the teacher silently. When we reached the office, she added, by the way, Benjamin's father is already here. From the doorway, I first looked at Feli. She was sitting quietly in the corner, doing her homework. Seeing how calm she was, I let out a small breath of relief. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little boy throwing a tantrum. When he spotted me, his eyes lit up, and he ran toward me on his short legs. Mommy. I bent down, caught him, but didn't hug him. Ash! Instead, I gently pushed him back. Little one, You've mistaken me for someone else." I smiled faintly, then looked up to meet the man's eyes.
Hello, sir.
"I'm Felice's mother. I never expected to see Lawrence again."
The world is vast. If you don't want to meet someone, you usually won't. Benjamin cried loudly.
Accusing me of abandoning him. Feli gripped her pen tightly. I could tell she was getting irritated. Lawrence just stared at me in silence, waiting for me to react. "Feli," I said, packing her school bag, "can you head home first?" She nodded firmly, slung her bag over her shoulder, and left without looking back. The moment she was gone, Benjamin quickly wiped away his tears and clung to my leg. "Mommy, please don't be mad at me, okay? I know I was wrong." I bent down, smiling, and patted his head. Then I looked up at Lawrence. "Mr. Jung, can we talk privately?" There's nothing particularly dramatic about my past with Lawrence. When my grandmother was young, she had saved Lawrence's grandmother during a kidnapping. Because of that, the Jang family sent gifts to us every holiday for years. When I got into college, my grandmother was too old to travel and worried I wouldn't adapt to the fast pace of city life. She contacted the Jang family asking them to look after me. That year, when I stepped out of the train station with my luggage, I saw Lawrence leaning casually against a car, playing with his phone. He was so dazzling that I wanted to use every beautiful word I knew to describe him. Falling for him felt like the most natural thing in the world. I knew we came from different worlds and never thought to wish for more. This was enough for me, just to pass by the moon and be bathed in its light. Lawrence and I attended the same university. Sometimes he would bring me things from his elders. Over time, we became acquaintances. Later, I heard about Lawrence's love story with his childhood sweetheart, a relationship full of sweetness, quarrels, breakups, and reconciliations. I was just a spectator, occasionally feeling a little lost. In my third year, I started an internship far from the university, which meant commuting long distances every day. One day, I ran into Lawrence, and he casually asked how I was doing. I told him the truth. Not long after, I got a call from Lawrence's grandmother. She said there was a vacant house near my company and suggested I move in. I couldn't refuse such a kind offer and was truly grateful. After moving in, I noticed traces of Lawrence's life everywhere. Feeling guilty, I kept all my belongings in the guest room to minimize my presence. Then, one night after working late, I came home to find Lawrence drunk and passed out on the sofa. I wanted to avoid suspicion, but I was worried he might catch a cold, so I brought him a blanket. He opened his eyes and looked at me. I thought he was going to question why I was in his house. Instead, he pinned me down, and we made a terrible mistake. These days, I barely remember much about that chaotic night. The human body has a self-protective mechanism. When something is too painful, it slowly fades away. In my life so far, I've only been with one person once. And that night, he called out someone else's name. Thinking back, Lawrence has only ever called me by my name once, the day we first met at the train station. He looked me up and down and said, "Julia, yes, I am." If life could always remain as it was at first sight, why would the autumn wind bring sorrow to painted fans? The campus was silent after school. Lawrence and I stood at the end of the corridor, a vibrant green backdrop behind us. "Didn't you want to talk privately?" Lawrence asked. "Hey, what you need to say?" Since he initiated, I didn't hesitate. "What have you been telling Benjamin these past few years?" "What?" he replied. "We've been divorced for 4 years. In these 4 years, I've kept my promise not to appear and have sent child support to your account every month on time. Children's memories are short. Besides, Ben never liked me as his biological mother. If no one had been constantly reminding him, he wouldn't still remember me, let alone have feelings for me." Lawrence turned his head away. "I haven't said anything to him. It's his grandmother who's been reminding him." "Then why the transfer?" I asked. "He's been insisting on finding you." Lawrence paused. I couldn't stop him. Of course, Benjamin is the apple of the Jung family's eye. Whatever he wants, he gets. Even Lawrence loses his principles when it comes to him. I lowered my gaze, quietly thinking. After a while, I smiled. It's fine. Once his expectations are shattered, he'll naturally want to go back. I've never been a likable person. Once Benjamin spends enough time with me, he'll realize that his memory of me is idealized. In reality, I am still the unlikable, annoying biological mother who will only lower his status. After returning to my hometown, I opened a small restaurant to make a living. Since I couldn't manage it alone, I limited the number of customers. Slowly, it gained popularity and became a trendy spot for tourists. 18-year-old Julia wanted to be a successful woman making millions a year, so she studied computer science. 20-year-old Julia only wanted to guard this small restaurant of less than 100 square meters and quietly spend the rest of her life. After transferring schools, Benjamin was brought to my restaurant by a driver every day after school. He's a smart kid who only showed his bratty side on our first day of reunion. Lawrence rarely appeared. Most of the time, the one accompanying Benjamin was the driver. I didn't understand what the Zhang family was thinking. They valued Benjamin so much, yet they trusted him alone in this remote small town. I didn't chase him away. He was the only blood relative I had left in this world. I had once stayed awake for 3 days and nights to care for him when he had a high fever. I had once made toys for him by hand, injuring myself in the process. I must admit, people are inherently selfish. When I did those things for him, I didn't expect anything in return. But after all my efforts, I was still hurt by his disdain, aversion, and dislike. When he was little, he was very attached to me, needed me to fall asleep, and he needed me to carry him whenever we went out. I relied on his dependence to endure countless cold stares and grievances from the Zhang family, but as he began to develop his own will, learn to walk, and learn to say no, he gradually stopped liking me. I would stop him from eating too much candy and sternly teach him when he misbehaved. Children don't discern right from wrong. They only know who restricts them. So naturally, he didn't want to be close to me anymore, until one day, after Lawrence took him out to play, Benjamin came home and boldly declared, "I don't want you to be my mom anymore. I want Aunt Miranda to be my mom. You don't deserve to be my mom. Get out. This is my house." Feli later asked me privately if she could avoid being friends with Benjamin because she didn't like him. "Of course you can," I replied without hesitation. But I was curious. "Why don't you like him?" Feli is a generous child. She rarely shows clear dislike for someone, usually staying indifferent. "He hurt you," Feli said calmly. "You're always sad when you see him." I was stunned. "He knows you're sad, but he keeps appearing in front of you," she continued, lowering her head, looking a little down. "Can I hit him? Can't beat the adult yet, but I can beat Benjamin." She thought for a moment. "Mom, can you send me to learn martial arts? I'll become really strong. Mom, I'll protect you." I agreed to send Feli to learn martial arts. She trained with great dedication. The master even said, "Your Feli is tougher than many older kids." I remembered Lawrence once mocking me, pointing at my nose, saying, "Who would ever love a woman like you?" That's not true, Lawrence. Grandma loved me. Feli loves me. And now, I love myself too. Lawrence still shows up occasionally, always looking travel-worn. He comes to my restaurant, orders a couple of dishes, eats, and then takes Benjamin home. Neighbors sometimes ask if Lawrence is pursuing me. They don't know he's my ex-husband. They only know a wealthy bachelor is visiting a divorced woman. With a child, I always laugh and deny it. He's not blind. Why would he be interested in me? He's here to pick up the child, not to court me. In the past, I might have guessed at the reasons behind his actions. But now, I have no curiosity about him. Whether he comes or goes, it makes no difference to me. Sometimes I wonder when Benjamin will get tired of this trying to win mother's favor game. He's been in this small town for almost 3 months. No aquarium, no amusement park, no big shopping malls. Maybe the saying the unattainable is always more precious is true even for children. The colder I am toward him, the more he clings to me. Often wears a lonely expression when I gently hold Feli's hand, when I bend down to straighten her dress, when I bring a special dessert from the kitchen just for her. But whenever I look at him, that loneliness vanishes, replaced by a sweet smile. People's feelings change with their preferences. When I loved this child, any small hurt he suffered would make my heart ache for a long time. But now, even knowing he's pretending to be strong, I feel nothing. I even wonder why he hasn't left yet. His presence here is really quite annoying. I don't hate him, I just don't like him anymore. Early summer had arrived, and after the closing ceremony, summer vacation officially began. That day I opened the restaurant as usual, and by the time I closed in the evening, Benjamin still hadn't shown up. I assumed he had finally grown tired of the boring game and decided to return to his life as a privileged young master. But when I got home that evening, I found him sitting obediently on the steps of the small courtyard, holding a delicate cake box. Lawrence was with him, accompanied by several gift bags. Their striking looks drew glances from passers-by, but they were focused only on what was in front of them. "Dad, when will Mom be back?" Soon, we specially came to celebrate her birthday and brought so many gifts. "Will Mom be happy?" "She will be." Hearing this, Benjamin pressed his lips together and smiled with anticipation. He was dressed in a formal little suit. Carefully groomed, the weather was hot, and perhaps he had waited too long because there were beads of sweat on his forehead. Or maybe it wasn't the heat. Maybe it was his excitement. I stopped a short distance away. Feli, however, didn't slow down at all. She walked straight to the father and son and said crisply, "You're mistaken. Mom's birthday isn't. Today, you're lying." Benjamin rarely confronted Feli directly anymore. He knew I adored her and didn't want to upset me, so he usually avoided interacting with her. But now he stood up fiercely, loudly retorting, "Mom's birthday is today? She and I share the same birthday. I wouldn't get it wrong." Lawrence saw me and stood up as well. He didn't speak at first, but there was a hint of expectation in his eyes. "Julia," he finally said, my name sounding awkward and unfamiliar on his lips. "Happy birthday." I walked over, pulled out my keys, and unlocked the courtyard gate, looking at him calmly. "I forgot to tell you, I've changed my birthday." After thinking for a moment, I added, "But this kind of trivial matter shouldn't concern you, right? I used to love celebrating my birthday. Grandma was a little old lady who loved rituals. Every year on my birthday, she would prepare a big table of dishes, a beautiful cake, and a delicate gift. There were only the two of us in the house. But it never felt lonely. Her health wasn't good, and she couldn't travel long distances. But after I went to college and couldn't be home for my birthday, she would fly across the country just to be with me, blowing out candles and eating cake together. When Grandma was alive, I was never lonely. That year, on my birthday, Grandma came as always. I was in the late stages of my pregnancy with Benjamin. Didn't want her to worry, so I hid all my discomfort and lied, telling her Lawrence was very caring. But in truth, Lawrence hardly ever looked at me. Even though we lived under the same roof, he treated me as if I didn't exist. At the time, I understood him. What happened between us that night had been a mistake. I even thought that since he was drunk, I could slip away once it was over. If I didn't say anything, no one would ever know. But what actually happened was that Lawrence tormented me the entire night. Before I could gather my strength to leave, the door was opened by Lawrence's grandmother, who had come to visit me. She brought chicken soup, knowing I had been working hard. From there, everything spiraled out of control, and there was no turning back. Lawrence's grandmother didn't care about the young people's emotional entanglements. She only knew that. Lawrence had ruined my reputation and had to take responsibility. She didn't care if Lawrence had a lover, if the Jiang family was happy with me as a daughter-in-law, or if I even wanted to marry him. She only cared about not wronging me or my grandmother. "Julia, I've told your grandmother about you and Lawrence. She wasn't in good health and you didn't want her to worry about you, right? I can tell you have feelings for Lawrence. You're a good child. I know you don't want to ruin Lawrence and Miranda's relationship, but what's done is done. Miranda can't tolerate any flaws in her relationship with Lawrence, so they have no future together. But you and Lawrence have endless possibilities. Don't you want to give it a try?" For a moment I was tempted. Even decide I found out I was pregnant. The symptoms were so severe that hiding them was impossible. I had no way out. I had to grit my teeth, endure Lawrence's hateful looks, and step into a marriage I knew would be unhappy from the start. Sometimes I hated my own deep-rooted tendency to compromise. I smiled and acted sweet in front of the elders, stayed indifferent in front of Lawrence, but inside, I was anything but happy. Morning sickness was painful. Swelling was painful. Cramps were painful. Being despised by the Jong family was painful. Being hated by Lawrence was painful, and being mocked by Miranda was painful. I endured all of it, and then another birthday came around. Grandma was happy that day. She prepared a gift for me, and one for her future great-grandchild. She said she wasn't leaving this time, and would stay until I gave birth and finished my recovery. But she never got to see Benjamin born. On my birthday, I took her out for dinner. It's when she saw Lawrence and Miranda holding hands and kissing. She had a heart attack right there and was rushed to the hospital. My resentment toward Lawrence probably began at that moment. I wasn't the one who made the mistake. I was the biggest victim, so why was I the one bearing all the consequences? The moment Grandma entered the hospital, she was sent straight to the emergency room. Soon the Jiang family arrived. Lawrence's grandmother slapped him hard in front of me, and I didn't stop her. I just stood there, staring at the surgery room door, desperately hoping for good news. But it didn't come. The light above the door went out, and the doctor stepped out with regret in his eyes, telling me to say goodbye to my grandmother. Goodbye? How absurd. Just an hour earlier, she was smiling, holding my hand, saying she had made soft clothes for her good grandson. And now, I was supposed to say goodbye? Lawrence's grandmother cried miserably, apologizing to me and to Grandma over and over, but I couldn't hear her. I was numb, gripping Grandma's hand tightly, afraid that if I let go, I would never feel her touch again. I know you're not happy in your marriage, Grandma said weakly from her bed. You just don't want me to worry, so you say nothing. I'm sorry, Julia. Grandma can't be with you anymore. Her voice trembled as she cried, choking out, Julia, what will you do if someone bullies you? What if no one is good to you? Who can I entrust you to? Lawrence's grandmother clutched my hand and swore through her tears. Don't worry, dear sister. I will take good care of Julia. She even pulled Lawrence forward and made him promise to. Lawrence knelt by the bed and told Grandma, Don't worry, Grandma. I will take good care of her. She looked at him with cloudy, weary eyes and gave a sad smile. The biggest regret of my life was asking your family to take care of her, she whispered. She held my hand so tightly, her eyes filled with reluctance, but in the end, she still left. She left with resentment, regret, and deep sorrow. I clutched my aching belly, and in my collapse and despair, I screamed through the night in the delivery room, giving birth to Benjamin. Perhaps out of guilt, Lawrence rarely saw Miranda after Grandma's death and began helping with the child. Though he still didn't talk much to me, at least we maintained a polite distance. Miranda, heartbroken, went abroad and rarely contacted Lawrence. I thought my life would continue, like that, stuck in an unhappy marriage with a husband who didn't love me, and a lovely son to care for. But then Miranda returned. And when she did, she took away all of Lawrence's and Benjamin's attention. All the family affection I could have had, and the love I never received, Miranda took without hesitation. On Benjamin's birthday, she told him she had prepared a grand surprise. Without a second thought, Benjamin ran to her, leaving me behind. Lawrence told me Miranda still didn't like me, so he wouldn't take me along. He promised he'd bring Benjamin back before sunset so we could celebrate my birthday together. But that day, they didn't return until after midnight. Lawrence called to say Benjamin was too tired from playing and had fallen asleep, so they stayed out. In the quiet of the night, I sat by the window for a long time. I thought about Grandma's last words, her hand holding mine, asking what I would do if no one treated me well. Grandma, I don't like celebrating my birthday anymore. Out of courtesy, I let the father and son in and poured them some water. Feli took the calendar from the cabinet and pointed to a date circled in red. This is Mom's birthday. Benjamin looked at me uneasily, his eyes damp, wanting to speak but not daring to. They really were alike, father and son, not just in looks, but in behavior. It felt like I had only provided the womb because there wasn't a single trace of me in Benjamin. Lawrence set the gifts in an empty corner. This time, it was my oversight. Next time, there's no need to prepare these next time. I interrupted, and there's no need to come next time either. Lawrence's back stiffened. After a long pause, he turned around. Sorry, can we talk privately? It was rare to hear those words from him. I made sweet drinks for the two little ones, turned on the TV to the children's channel, then led Lawrence to the pavilion in the yard. This place is beautiful, Lawrence said, a little awkwardly. Thanks for the compliment. I got straight to the point. Please, say what you need to. I noticed you don't have another man in your life right now, Lawrence began. If you don't mind, can we remarry? I stared at him in silence. Lawrence looked away, clearly uncomfortable. I just think we should give the child a complete family. Ben has changed a lot lately. He's not as willful or spoiled as before. So aren't you married to Miss Miranda? I asked. Lawrence was stunned. Back then, everyone told me she was the perfect wife for you, Benjamin's mother. You never said it outright, but I assumed you agreed, so I stepped aside on my own. What? You didn't end up together? I couldn't. Meet my gaze. His hands clenched and unclenched. That's all in the past, and so are we. But we have a child. So what, Lawrence? Stop using other people as excuses. First it was Miranda, now it's Benjamin. I smiled softly. Is it so hard to admit you have feelings for me? I used to wonder just how insignificant I must be in Lawrence's eyes, for him to be so ashamed to admit it. Love is hard to hide. I never said I loved Lawrence, but my flushed ears and racing heart betrayed me long ago. Our marriage lasted for years. Maybe I had a tendency to please others, but if he had never given me even a shred of hope, I wouldn't have lasted that long. I don't know when he started to like me or how much he ever did. I just inherited the habits of my grandmother's generation. When something isn't good, you don't throw it away and replace it. You patch it up and try to make it last. The same went for my marriage. I thought maybe Lawrence didn't dislike me that much. If I just tried harder, maybe it would get better. I searched for signs of his affection, desperate to gather those small fragments of love to light my way forward. Eventually I did light. The path only to see it was rugged, bumpy, filled with a nauseating stench. Those fragments of love weren't enough to keep me going. They didn't bring warmth only, the realization of how unbearable this marriage truly was. I used to think maybe Lawrence had a strong moral sense, that he couldn't accept loving anyone but Miranda. Later, I realized if you truly had such strong morals, how could you still maintain an ambiguous relationship with your first love, even after getting married? You're just selfish. You even use Benjamin missing me as an excuse to reconcile. But Lawrence, we've been divorced for 4 years. Lawrence swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. So I'm too late, right? It's not that you're too late. I sighed softly. It's just that all of that is in the past. Lawrence looked forward. He raised his hand to cover his eyes. I knew his pride, and seeing him like this brought me no satisfaction. Quietly, I stood up, ready to leave him in that small space. Before I could go, he reached out and grabbed my skirt. His grip was so tight that his knuckles turned white, veins standing out. He had lost a lot of weight, and there was an unhidden desolation about him. I could hear his suppressed sobs, see his trembling shoulders. Don't come again, I said. Go back to your life and take Benjamin with you. I pulled my skirt free, smoothing it down. I forgot to tell you. My birthday now is the anniversary of our divorce. That was also the day I found Feli. She didn't know her birthday, and I wanted her to have a new one. So we made that day our rebirth day. Considered an early birthday gift from you. Give me some peace. Thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence left, taking Benjamin with him. He didn't say a word, but Benjamin seemed to understand. Before leaving, he clung to my leg, refusing to let go. He cried miserably, his voice sharp and hoarse, his little face flushed red, sobbing as if he might faint any second. I won't go. Let me go. I want my mom. He struggled desperately, begging me. Mom, please don't abandon me, okay? I'll be good and obedient from now on. I won't make you sad anymore. Please don't send me away. Dad, you're a liar, you said. Mom would forgive me. Big liar, big bad guy, go away. Mom. The car door slammed shut. Through the glass, I saw Benjamin crying, pressing against the window, pounding on it with all his strength, looking at me pitifully. Lawrence pulled him back, holding him down firmly, and ordered the driver in a deep voice, "Drive." He didn't look at me again. Not once did he turn back. Feli stood beside me, looking up with a questioning expression. "What is it?" I asked gently. "They won't come back, right?" "No, they won't." "Mom, are you sad?" I smiled and patted her head. "Feli, everything will pass. Remember, no matter how painful something is, as long as you keep moving forward without looking back, you'll get through it." I had already walked far ahead, but it seemed Lawrence and Benjamin were still standing in the same place. It didn't matter, we were never meant to be on the same path, so there was no need for me to stop and wait. That night, I dreamed I went back a few years to when Benjamin had just been born. I was so exhausted from caring for him that I fell asleep on the sofa. In my half-dream, half-awake state, Lawrence came home late from work, picked me up, carried me upstairs, and gently laid me on the bed. He brushed my hair from my forehead and gave me a soft kiss. "Good night, honey." At that moment, I truly believed I could spend my whole life with him. Later, I understood a lifetime is too long and no one can accompany someone through all of it. He was just a passerby in my life, a vivid brushstroke in an otherwise calm existence. That's all he was, Lawrence, for you and me. The end. Came long ago, after Lawrence and I divorced. The atmosphere in the Jang family stayed heavy for a long time. The woman they never welcomed was finally gone, but the relief they expected never came. Lawrence, always a man of few words, spoke even less. He buried himself in work, always away on business trips or heading to one. Even when he was home, he usually fell asleep right away. Benjamin seemed carefree, running around with the nanny every day, throwing tantrums whenever he didn't get his way. One day, out of nowhere, Benjamin asked, "Where's Mom?" The nanny froze, unsure how to answer. Benjamin didn't wait. He searched under the table in the wardrobe, and even out in the garden. After a long time, he still found nothing. Where could Mom be hiding? Children forget easily, but Benjamin was smart, could clearly remember the last time he saw Julia, that morning before she left. She had smiled, bent down, and patted his head. "Ben, Mom is leaving. I used to hope you'd be a good, obedient child, but now I understand you're different from me. You have the privilege of being willful. In the days to come, be happy and joyful." At the time, Benjamin didn't think much about her words. He was annoyed by her lectures and resented her constant control. But now, as he remembered them and looked around the big villa, realizing there was no trace of Julia anywhere, he began to feel a deep sadness. That evening, when Lawrence came home, Benjamin did something unusual. He grabbed his father's hand. "Dad, did you fight with Mom?" Lawrence stopped and looked down at him. Benjamin's small face was tense and worried. "Can you apologize to Mom and make up with her? I haven't seen her in a long time. I want to eat her sweet and sour ribs. Can we have them tonight?" Lawrence looked at Benjamin's expectant eyes, his own face expressionless at first,
"Oh."
then slowly curling into a cruel smile. "I didn't fight with her," he said. "I divorced her." "Do you know what divorce means?" "It means she doesn't want you anymore. She'll never see you again. No matter what you do, she won't care. She abandoned you, understand?" He seemed to savor the fear on Benjamin's face and repeated, "She doesn't want you anymore. She'll have other children better than you, cuter than you. You mean nothing to her now. You're lying. Mom wouldn't abandon me," Benjamin shouted. "You're the one she left. Mom said she loved me the most." She lied to you," Lawrence laughed coldly. "Loved you the most? You really believe that, Lawrence? What are you saying to the child?" The elders of the Jong family hurried over, pulling Benjamin into their arms, comforting him softly. "Ben, don't cry. Dad was just joking. I want Mom. Mom is busy right now. She went back to her hometown. She'll be back in a few days, okay?" "No, I want to see her now." Benjamin struggled violently. Lawrence hated his willfulness the most. He stood there, watching his son's outburst with indifference like an outsider. Even when Benjamin cried so hard he nearly vomited, Lawrence only frowned slightly before heading upstairs. The bedroom looked exactly the same as before, left right down to the large wedding photo on the wall. Sometimes Lawrence didn't understand himself. When he and Miranda broke up, he had blocked her, deleted her number, thrown away every memento erasing her completely. But with Julia, he threw nothing away, as if discarding those things would make the loss real. He worked hard to stay calm, to convince himself her leaving meant nothing. She was just a woman he didn't love. Divorce was supposed to be a relief. Half a year after the divorce, Miranda asked if he wanted to get married. Lawrence was silent for a while, then said, "Forget it. Benjamin was just making a fuss about finding her a few days ago. If I marry you, he'll probably throw a huge tantrum." Miranda studied him for a moment, then asked, "Are you really not marrying me just because of Benjamin?" "What else?" he replied. Miranda laughed, but there was a mocking edge to her tone. "Lawrence, sometimes I admire you. You even managed to lie to yourself." Lawrence didn't understand. What could he possibly be lying to himself about? Years later, when Benjamin turned 18, Lawrence was still single. Julia, however, had remarried to a quiet, shy programmer who treated her with real kindness. Out of love for her, he even cared deeply for Benjamin, his stepson. Benjamin attended their wedding. That evening, over dinner, he mentioned to Lawrence that the wedding had been small, but full of warmth, lively. Even without many guests, Lawrence quietly chewed his food, not even glancing at Benjamin. This was their usual way of interacting, polite. But cold, there wasn't much affection between them, just the distant relationship typical of a wealthy family. Benjamin had no idea that Lawrence had also attended the wedding that day. Not only had he gone, but he had also given a red envelope with a bank card inside. Julia didn't accept it. "Keep it. I know you don't need this, but it's just a little gesture from me." "I can't give you anything else," Lawrence said. "You don't need to give me anything," Julia replied. Shaking her head, she wore a simple dress not as grand as her wedding to Lawrence, but her smile was far more genuine. Lawrence looked at her once, then quickly looked away. He was afraid that if he stared too long, he might break down, beg her not to marry, and plead with her to stay. The dressing room was quiet. Someone knocked on the door. "Is the bride ready? It's time to go on stage." "Ready?" Julia answered. She stood and asked, "Ben is outside. Why don't you join us for a meal before you leave?" "No," Lawrence shook his head, stood, and walked to the door first. With his hand on the doorknob, he suddenly spoke. "By the way, there's something I've never told you." Julia looked at him curiously. "I used to be jealous of Benjamin." "And Grandma?" Julia blinked in surprise. "What did you say?" "Everyone said you loved me deeply, but I always felt Grandma was more important to you, so I was unhappy. Then Benjamin was born. No matter what we were doing, as soon as he cried, I ceased to exist in your eyes. So I always disliked him. Maybe, deep down, I just wanted all of your attention." Lawrence gave a bitter smile. "Too bad I wasn't that lucky. So I lost what I already had too. And I wasn't drunk. That night, I was completely clear-headed." Finally, he turned to look at her. "If you're ever unhappy in the future, come to me anytime. But if you're happy, don't tell me. You know I'm not a good person. Seeing your happiness without me and I tied, want to ruin it." From the first day the programmer appeared at Julia's side, Lawrence knew the desire to destroy would rise again, like an ugly creature hiding in the shadows. But Julia's smile was so beautiful, so real, that he couldn't bring himself to harm it. Not witnessing Julia and the programmer's wedding was the greatest blessing he could give her. Is it sad? Yes. Is it regrettable? Yes. But no matter how much sadness or regret he carried in this lifetime, he and Julia were over. Lawrence thought back to the year he first met her. He had been reluctant to pick up the country bumpkin his grandmother sent for. Moment before seeing her, he had been texting his friends to complain. But when he looked up and saw Julia, his breath nearly stopped. She was like a cool breeze that swept away the summer heat, leaving only the sound of cicadas and the dappled sunlight through the trees. The attraction was instant. He found himself doing things he didn't understand, his eyes always following. her by the time he realized it. There was no turning back. He watched over the years as the sunlight on her face faded and shadows grew. Back then, he truly believed she would stay with him for life. In a daze, Lawrence felt as though he was dreaming. In that dream, he stood on their wedding day. The officiant held the microphone and asked, "For richer or poorer in sickness? And in health, Mr. Lawrence, do you take Miss Julia to be your wife?" He heard himself say, "I do."